What's up, hackers? Welcome back to another episode of Hack Crypto, where we hack all of our crypto education. If you guys are brand new here, be sure to be subscribed with the notification bell on for my next fire video. Now, in this episode, I'm going to be going over AMP and Empera. So these are two separate projects, and my goal with this channel from the beginning has always been to simplify. An AMP token is really trying to do something unique with digital payments. And Empera is really trying to drive the narrative of how it benefits you to use digital assets as payment, as a merchant, as a consumer, and getting involved as a developer. So I'm going to break these down. I'm going to jump onto the website in a little bit, but first let's start with AMP token. AMP token was developed by Flexa and Consensus. If that sounds familiar, I just did a video on Flexa, the awesome payment app that basically allows you to go into a Starbucks or a Dunkin' Donuts, purchase a coffee, and it immediately transacts in cryptocurrency, wires the money using Coinbase custody and Gemini custody to the merchant. All done on the app seamlessly and easy. So you can walk in, beep, pay with your phone on the app. So in order for all of this to exist, for somebody to just walk in and beep their phone and make a payment at a Starbucks, for example, a lot goes on under the hood. This all starts with the Flexa payment network. A lot of the goal here is to make the largest payment network out there and to simplify crypto payments for the masses and drive adoption. Now, the AMP token underlies all of this as collateral. Why do you need collateral? So ultimately, when you're transacting, there are things that go on behind the scenes in a payment network with something like a Visa. Transactions fail often with Visa. Whenever you've gone to the grocery store and you've tried to do a transaction, it bounces, let's say, or something happens and you have to redo it. This is just an example of how clunky payments have been for decades. And what AMP token is doing is basically providing that collateral underneath these transactions. In the event that anything happens, basically it will convert that to fiat currency, wire it to the merchant, no harm done, all of it goes through, and it is making it a seamless experience, all under the hood using the Flexa payment network. Now, why is the Flexa payment network important for AMP token? In order for the merchants to collect fees, there is going to have to be a transaction that takes place using a pool, a very large pool of over $200 million worth of AMP token. People pool their AMP tokens together on the Flexa capacity app, and merchant fees are collected. It is then used to purchase these AMP tokens, and that pool helps support all of these transactions to take place like a DeFi liquidity pool in a way. So merchant fees are used to buy AMP token. People who are staking in that pool are rewarded in fees, and as this scales, the idea is that these people that are staking are actually earning more. At the time of recording this, the earnings that you could potentially earn aren't that high in terms of staking, but as adoption grows, as people understand the value as a consumer and as a merchant to utilize the AMP token and the Flexa app on top of that, using the payment network in general, this grows, and in turn, the staking rewards grow. As adoption moves quickly, as people are using this at different merchants, as Flexa partners with more and more companies all across the world, you are going to have a very large amount of staked AMP token in the collateral pool, and you're going to have a lot of rewards coming from those merchant fees. So when people are providing collateral in something like a pool on the Flexa capacity app, basically you are decentralizing the rewards. You're decentralizing the mechanism that is transacting for the merchant and the consumer. Why is this important? This is important because when you have a merchant that may or may not have a stigma towards the cryptocurrency payment in general, somebody comes up and says, hey, do you accept Dogecoin? They're going to basically shrug a little bit and say, I think I do, but let's see if it goes through. The moment that that Flexa app hits the register and the AMP token is underlying it to secure the transaction in the event of anything happens. And if that transaction fails, it's liquidated. The AMP token is liquidated immediately and it converts and wires those funds. And the merchant says, whoa, all right, well, yeah, I do accept Dogecoin. Turns out the funds just hit my bank account immediately and we're ready to go. Pay again. So the idea here is to make that underlying collateral with the AMP token have the experience be seamless. So a good front end with the Flexa app sitting all the way at the top here. Underneath that, you have the AMP token, and then we have Empera as the whole sort of vision for each individual to participate in the network. Now, it's important to recognize here that these are all separate projects. They're very separate. And the reason for this is every different project, every different company is going to be contributing to different partnerships. When you are scaling up and you're trying to get as many transactions for as many merchants as possible, you need to do this through strategic partnerships. That's just a fact. And the way that Flexa started this was really teaming up with Gemini partnering with Coinbase, and they're able to utilize that infrastructure for the Flexa network. And when you have that all over the world in over 50 countries, you have all the bank accounts in all these different countries, merchants everywhere can then feel secure when they're going to accept those payments and the AMP token is underlying it. And they know, all right, these are the values because I'm reading the Empera documentation. It says I should be focused on this because it's mainstream. People that are using this are really savvy, and I should be able to make more money because it's charging me only 1% of fees. So shifting gears into Empera. The idea around this is it is just to really push mainstream adoption. When you check out the website, it is basically just a portal for people to go on and say, hey, the whole goal of the Empera ecosystem is to drive adoption. So as Empera drives adoption using simple messaging for consumers and the merchants, you're going to see more AMP token get pooled on the Flexa Capacity app. So there is more of that collateral underlying all the transactions. That said, let's jump onto the Empera website. As you can see here, Empera aims to revolutionize digital payments by demonstrating how digital assets can make transactions faster and cheaper and more accessible to everyone. So the goal is raising awareness. Got to get mainstream adoption so that not only the AMP token and Flexa and all the partners and everybody can grow, but ultimately you need education. So Empera is an inclusive and comprehensive payment ecosystem that is dedicated to integrating all aspects of digital asset payments. It's a movement committed to transforming how digital assets are perceived and used every day. As I mentioned previously, it's important to know the three segments here: consumers, merchants, and developers. So there is a massive grant program. As you can see here, when you go to the overview, it shows small grants 10K, medium 10 to 50, and large 50K and over. It takes about 4 weeks. And this is for developers to get involved with the ecosystem. So you can see open source tooling, payment integrations, research. There's so much unique opportunities here for developers, content creators, everybody. So I really believe that Empera's movement that's really happening right now is all around the education curve. It's a focus on getting people to accept digital assets, not only as a payment, but just in general as a psychological barrier. They're trying to get over that, and they're trying to help push merchants to accept that this is the future. It's easy to accept using our payment network. Just the overall message here is simplicity. And I love that because it aligns with the channel. It's basically just simplifying digital asset payments for everyone, consumers and merchants. So overall, I applaud Empera for the mission of driving adoption. I really love the tokenomics around the AMP token and how they've approached it with all the different aspects of the pooling for collateral, securing those transactions, and ultimately just making it so that the payments are easy. As you can see here on the Flexa Capacity app, you have 225 million pooled as collateral in the Flexa Capacity app. You can connect to your wallet, and of course you can stake these tokens and get your reward and add them to the pool. As you can see, when you go through the capacity metrics here, you can see all the hourly capacity, which represents the maximum throughput of a single currency through the network. And it's really cool to see the level of volume here. Important to know that when you're talking about AMP tokens specifically, that it is open source. People can utilize this as collateral for their own applications. And it opens the door to developers to be able to utilize AMP token in their own way, in their own app and everything. And you can see these updating in real time. But I love that they open sourced AMP for the developers so that it is a collateral to be used everywhere for all payments. And I think that that's such a powerful concept when we're talking about Flexa specifically here as the Flexa network that is utilizing AMP as the collateral underlying the transactions. And I think that with other developers, they're watching this right now, know that when you can utilize AMP as its open source, you can also have this. And I think it's such a powerful concept. And I like that they have this here getting updated in real time. So in the spirit of crypto, everything has always really been grassroots. Everybody wants the ecosystem, everybody wants the community, everybody wants to focus on the education like myself and just sharing the simple ways of adopting something like a digital asset. So what Empera is really trying to do is educate the masses on both sides of the equation, the consumers and the merchants. And to me, as both of these, both a consumer and a merchant, I know that when you can reduce the amount of fees that you are paying when someone is at that payment point of sale, you win. And as a merchant, you're able to make more money because you're getting charged less fees. And as a merchant, you could stake, you could put AMP tokens up as collateral for other merchants and support the ecosystem and support the network. And I think that that is really a piece that Empera is playing here is just education curves are pretty heavy. in this space. So merchants are going to be able to have multiple streams of revenue where they have more money coming in because it's being charged less fees when people are paying with the Flexa app all the way at the top. The AMP token is in this pool on the Flexa Capacity app. So you're able to yield some staking, which is another revenue stream for you as a merchant. And at the end of the day, you're able to not only educate the consumers that are coming up and paying, but you can help support the overall mission, driving more adoption and earning more revenue as a business. So it's a lot of really cool concepts boiled down simply on the Empera platform. I'm going to be linking everything below so you guys can check out the platform, also the AMP token. And my previous video in this series about Flexa really breaks down why Flexa is important, why it was started in New York City in 2018. It's a pure digital payment network. And the idea of just being integrated with so many different merchants all over the world, partnering with the biggest bank in El Salvador, just incredible partnerships. And I'm really pleased to see that merchants are being charged less than 1%. This is just, above all, to me, the most important of this whole conversation around AMP token and Empera, because I believe that the whole core part of adoption is the merchants. The people who accept payments for goods and services are the ones that drive adoption, ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not. That is it for my overview of AMP token as well as the Empera platform. I think that these are really powerful projects because Flexa is such a well-known brand in the space. And when you have these big projects supporting each other and supporting the network itself, you're going to get a lot of adoption. And this has been around for a long time. I remember when I first heard about this in 2019, it was really getting a lot of hype. And now seeing it in 2025 is super exciting to see. They're still here. They're still hustling. That is it for this video. Slap a like if you like this. I'm hopefully going to be doing more videos on Flexa in the near future, as well as AMP token and Empera. These are all separate projects, as I mentioned before. This is not financial advice. We'll link to everything below so you can check out the AMP token in the description, and the price movement has been pretty wild over the last 6 months or so. So be sure to check that out. And also the over 200 million staked AMP token. Be sure to check that out. I'll link to that below as well. And that is it for this video. I'll see you here on the next episode.